Hello, it's Doris with Aldi Books, and I'm here for Friday Reads. But it's really more of just to get caught up on pseudo reviewing the books that I've read somewhat recently. So I finished 4 more books in October that I have not mentioned yet. I've sort of mentioned them, but anyway, let me just dive in. So I did film a video. I like my thoughts. I just got home from school. Happy Friday. I did film a dedicated book naturalist book club video and talked about this one extensively. Darwin Comes to Town by Menno Schultwizen. This is how the urban jungle drives evolution. Really enjoyed this. If you are into botany and nature and science, I would highly recommend it. It's pretty cool. And the book naturalist video, I talk about it in more depth. And I don't know if I've mentioned the rest of these. So Children of the Land by Marcelo Hernandez Castillo. This is nonfiction, also a memoir. Yes, I expected to really love this one. Being an ESL teacher and connecting with the immigrant experience. And there were some things in this that I really appreciated. The sections where he talks about his mother, I just really connected with those. There were just, it just didn't hit me. The style of the book just didn't work for me. The author is a poet, and normally I like literary writing. This one, however, he seemed to dramatize most things. And I'm not saying that they weren't intense experiences and events. They definitely were. But he seemed to stretch things out a lot. And I would rather have him just got to the point more often. But, you know, what this book is him being DACA. So how difficult that was to feel like you don't have a homeland because the homeland that you grew up in doesn't claim you, and yet you don't feel connected to your birth home because you haven't lived there. He talks about his mother's immigration experience, multiple occasions, and how difficult that was. And again, I really connected with her sections a lot. So I think it was just the writing style with this one that didn't quite work for me, but the information in it was very relevant and important. And yeah, so this was somewhat of a mixed bag. And then The Corset by Laura Purcell. This is the author of The Silent Companions that I read a couple years ago and really loved. It was just the right amount of creepy. And this one, again, I just was disappointed because I was expecting to love it, and it wasn't bad, but I just it never got creepy spooky for me, and it again was just kind of drawn out. And I'm beginning to understand that I like people to get to the point. I like beautiful language, but I like concise, beautiful, get to the point language. So this one is a young girl who, a difficult time in the Victorian era, working parents. Her dad's an artist and her mom is a seamstress, and they just have to work hard. Well, the mother has to work hard for every penny. The dad's kind of being supported by the mom. Not so cool, not so cool. And yeah, the girl internalizes some anger issues, and they manifest, she thinks, in her seamstress work. She follows the mother down that path of work, and she ends up being basically enslaved to a seamstress, forced labor, and her mother ended up in the poorhouse. And yeah, so she thinks that her anger issues get embedded in her clothing that she makes, and causes severe harm to those who wear it. And yeah, it just didn't spook me. So bummer. And then Beatrix Potter, A Life in Nature by Linda Lear. This was great. So again, this one and the Corset were both Victorian era. This is late Victorian and then into the next era, whatever that might be. I'm not good with my eras, but I just learned so much about this time period, and Beatrix Potter was such a woman. So she was definitely a woman of her time. She was kind of classist and judgmental, but at the same time, she herself was breaking out of these constraints. She was very active in the publishing industry, and kind of cutting edge, developing ideas there, and with marketing of products related to her books. And she became very much enamored of the naturalist movement and had quite the scientific bent herself, and then transitioned with that into being an environmentalist, but kind of a rural English farmland type environmentalist. So like preserving the culture, the farming community as well. And yeah, she just did a lot for her country as far as conservation goes, and art. Just really neat, really neat. And hearing her younger self be like, she was very self-possessed and sure of her beliefs as far as art and nature went, and advocated for herself in those beliefs, and just a really, really interesting person. Her loyalty to her parents and respect for their command over her life as a young woman well into her 40s, and then how she, finally married and had her own life apart from them. It's just really neat person. So a woman of contrasts. Enjoyed that quite a bit. And then I have finished 2 books thus far in November. So I finished Bellevue by David Oshinsky. This is 3 Centuries of Medicine and Mayhem at America's Most Storied Hospital. This one is set in New York City, and it goes from this founding of the nation, really, to modern times. And I loved it. Oh my gosh, I just hung on every word. I listened to this on audiobook, and I don't really want to talk about this much right now, because I want to do a nonfiction November overview of my 4 picks, because they kind of all speak to each other through the medical lens. So I think that would be a neat video. But yeah, I mean, if you're into this kind of thing, yeah. I mean, it's not just medicine and science, a lot of history, and really good book. And then I finally finished The Cubans, Ordinary Lives in Extraordinary Times by Anthony De Palma. This is set in Cuba in the modern era. I guess in the 80s, when, like, I'm gonna embarrass myself right now, but I think it's the 80s, when the Soviet Union fell apart, and then they quit supporting Cuba financially to the extent that they had been, and then Cuba really fell apart because they really had no economy of their own outside of their connection with the Soviet Union. And so they called this era, I think, the special times, and how difficult it was and how people coped in their political views. So it follows several different individuals with differing situations and views. So, and again, I don't really want to go to in depth with this because this is the last of the Cuban project, which I began in January and mostly finished in January, but I'm just now finishing this one. So I want to get my thoughts together and review. I'm looking at them behind me over there. All of those books together in one video. So I'll talk about this again soon as well. And then currently reading, like, I think the theme here is like, I'm behind in everything perpetually. So I'm still working on Victober, Two on a Tower by Thomas Hardy. And Thomas Hardy, like the first third of this book, or quarter of the book, was just gorgeous. And I was really excited because I dog-eared several pages because it was really beautiful. And I was connecting with it. And then the relationship developed, if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. And I just haven't enjoyed it much since that point. So I'm going to finish it. I mean, it's not a DNF, but it's just, I'm not loving it the way I was hoping I would for the first quarter. And, you know, it's definitely not a Far from the Madding Crowd, which, one of my faves, but, you know, interesting. I think it's super cool that it's based on astronomy. Like, that's neat. I guess this might be Victorian too. I'm not real sure. But yeah, gonna finish that hopefully this weekend. And my second nonfiction November audiobook is American Eden by Victoria Johnson. David Hossick, Botany and Medicine in the Garden of the Early Republic. So this is really cool because, like I said, these nonfiction November books are talking to each other. So this one is also based in New York, but this zeroes in on the early days of the Republic, Washington, Jefferson, and okay, the Hamilton Burr scene, like, I just don't even believe that nonsense for real. What in the world? We thought politics in this decade were crazy, but I guess they've always been crazy because, I mean, that was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. And that would not fly in today's modern times, I don't think. Like, you can't just do that. But I'm almost done with this. Like, I'm 2/3 of the way done, and I'm planning on finishing this weekend as well. I'm right here to the glossy pictures, but as I flipped through this just now, I realized that it has black and white scattered in too. And since I'm listening to this on audio, I'm going to need to go in and page through and look at all the pictures when I finish. But yeah, I don't want to talk about this too much either because I've previously stated nonfiction November review coming. And then today starts mid-month book bash for November. I'm doing a nonfiction November / shorty November theme / books that have been gifted to me theme. So tonight I am going to read Astronauts, Women on the Final Frontier by Jim Ottaviani and Maris Wicks. So graphic novel. I think I can breeze through this and then hopefully get back to Two on a Tower. And yeah, so I think that's it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon because, you know, I'm vlogging for Mid-Month Book Bash. So see you soon. Bye.